Welcome to Hamilton Crescent in Glasgow. It's the home of the West of Scotland Cricket Club, but this picturesque little cricket ground also has a permanent place in football history, as it was the location for the first ever international match on the 30th of November 1872. That game was played between, you guessed it, England and Scotland, with 4,000 fans paying the princely sum of 1 shilling each to watch. The game finished 0-0, but the footballing rivalry that began that day was to live far longer in the memory. It wasn't until 1884 that the International Football Association agreed on a uniform set of rules that would lead to a tournament between the 4 British sides and the formation of the Home Championships. It was the world's first international football tournament and would run for the next century. While Wales and Ireland were by no means making up the numbers, the main attraction was usually the clashes between the old enemies of England and Scotland, and the excitement, the drama, and even the controversy that frequently ensued. The controversy in 1983 surrounded England's announcement that this would be their penultimate involvement in the Home Championships. England cited fixture congestion and hooliganism, but they also harboured a desire to play more high-profile friendlies overseas. However, on the 1st of June 1983, both sets of fans were showing plenty of passion for a fixture that was to celebrate its 100th competitive meeting that day. Each side had won 39 matches apiece, but for Scotland they hadn't managed a victory at the Twin Towers since 1979. The signs weren't great for this match either, as they were missing influential forward Kenny Dalglish. However, in his place came an equally impressive crowd puller, Charlie Nicholas, who made his debut at Wembley. Much was expected of a man who'd notched up 52 goals that season and was surprisingly the only representative from Celtic or Rangers to make it into the Scottish squad. The Scottish team's relative inexperience was summed up by manager Jock Stein's selection of 5 players never to have appeared at Wembley. The England manager Bobby Robson was in his first year as national manager, and this was his first experience of a game against the old enemy. However, one man accustomed to matches against Scotland was keeper Peter Shilton. That day, he was making his 50th appearance and would eventually go on to win 125 caps, an England record. However, back in '83, he was concentrating on the clean sheet that would guarantee his country victory in that year's Home Championship. Both teams had beaten Wales and drawn against Northern Ireland, meaning a victory for either side would be enough to give them the title. Bobby Robson, now Sir Bobby, once said of an opposing team, "We didn't underestimate them. They were just better than we thought." Would England again underestimate their old rivals like they famously did in '67? Let's find out by joining your match commentator John Motson at Wembley.
So the oldest international fixture in the football calendar enters its 2nd century. England and Scotland have met exactly 100 times, 39 wins each and 22 draws. It's absolutely level, a series which began way back in 1872. The 2 captains, Brian Robson, who should know this walk by now, captain of the FA Cup holders, Manchester United, and Liverpool's Graham Souness, the captain of Scotland. And the Scots, hardened support, not deterred by the switch from Saturday to Wednesday. But now the team news. England make 2 changes from the side which drew in Belfast. Sammy Lee and Brian Robson are back in midfield in a 4-4-2 formation. Gary Mabbott and Luther Blissett drop to substitute. The team has been picked with September's European Championship match against Denmark uppermost in Bobby Robson's mind, because he loses Sansom, Roberts, Brian Robson and Hoddle to club tours after this match, while the other players are going with him to Australia. 8 of the Scottish team then home-based players, 4 from Aberdeen, 3 from Dundee United, reflecting the shift in power north of the border. 5 men have not played at Wembley before. Goalkeeper Jim Leighton, right-back Richard Gough, Gordon Strachan, number 7, number 11 Eamon Bannon, and that most sought-after player in Britain, 21-year-old Charlie Nicholas. With 52 goals in competitive football this season, he's the only player from Celtic or Rangers in the starting 11, and he won't be with Celtic, it seems, very much longer. So England in the white shirts, playing from left to right. Peter With there with the early touch. Willie Miller back for Scotland. Andy Gray, Strachan. England criticised for their performance in Belfast, but it ought to be said that of their last 20 full internationals, they've lost only one. That was here to West Germany in October. That was on by Gray to Nicholas, and it was Phil Neal whose pass went astray. And I think you'll see from these corners that McLeish and Gough will both go forward for Scotland. McLeish tends to make a very late run. Eamon Bannon will curl it in short to Gray and get it back. And he then did curl it in properly, and the referee gives England a free kick for offside. Robbie Robson has taken his seat in the stand for the early part of the match. Bannon, not a good pass. Glenn Hoddle for England, looking for Peter With. Turned back by Gough. Interesting player, Richard Gough, the youngest man on the pitch. Born in Sweden, and his family live in South Africa. He plays for Dundee United. David Nary in strongly. Bannon. Frank Gray is in support. Strachan is in the centre. So the brisk opening 5 minutes you might expect from an England-Scotland match. With McLeish came in behind him, but England had possession with Sammy Lee. Brian Robson is pushing forward, Francis in the middle. So is With now. Here's Francis. Took it early. Francis, among the players on the pitch, the leading England goal scorer with 11 in his international career. Nice sunlit evening here at Wembley. And bearing in mind the heavy storm last night in London and the rain we had leading up to the FA Cup final, the pitch holding up well. May get heavy as the game wears on, we shall see. Here's Nicholas. Souness. Frank Gray well forward, so was Strachan, and England just waiting for Butcher to make the decisive interception. That's a goal kick.
Good to see Terry Butcher keeping cool in that situation there. Might have panicked, but for a big man he showed quite delicate ball skill and played his way out of trouble. But there's nothing in it at the moment. Both sides feeling each other out. No mastery so far. A lot of fair competition and trying to establish mastery in midfield and in other areas, but it's not really warmed up yet.
Souness, the Scotland captain, to Andy Gray. And then Bannon. Just to remind you, there are two Grays on the Scotland side. Frank Gray of Leeds playing at left back. He's on the ball now. And further forward, the Wolves number 9, Andy Gray. This is Strachan. It was Roberts who wasn't sure, Sansom who was. Touch back by With. Here's Glenn Hoddle. Spinning it out to Phil Neal. Oh dear me. It's not like him. Bannon. David Nary, the strongest tackler in the Scottish midfield. substitutes bench, including the Watford pair, Luther Blissett and John Barnes, as well as Gary Mabbott, who's a little unlucky to be left out on Bobby Robson's own admission. Here's Hoddle. Sanson. Good effort from a player who's still waiting for his first goal for England, Kenny Sansom. Just following that line through about the substitutes, Scotland have Alan Brazil and John Walk and Tommy Burns among their 5. Neri. For this free kick, Richard Gough has again gone forward on the right for the Scots. Miller will take the kick, and it's aimed towards Gough. Just a reminder that although the International Championship, now known as the British Championship, didn't used to depend on goal difference, or in the old days goal average, it does now, and if this match was a draw, Scotland would be champions. Ten minutes gone, 0-0, with for England to Francis. That's Bannon. Terry Butcher has begun to make his way forward, and Andy Gray has been deputed to go back with him. And indeed, they needed Andy Gray back in there, did the Scots? Will be taking the right-wing corners for England, who've got Butcher in the near-post area. Flicked on there. Roberts was up well. Graham Roberts lending his presence to the England attack on corners. He's not the tallest centre-half in the world, but he does get up well. There's Hoddle. Neal. Cowans. Away from Souness, back from Francis to Cowans. And Bannon. Both teams playing a version of 4-4-2. With and Francis, the forward players for England. Andy Gray and Charlie Nicholas up front for Scotland. This is Hoddle. Sansom. Hoddle again. Even on throw-ins, Butcher will go forward as he did in the World Cup with some success. Oh, we got a flick on there and run in by Robson. Well, it's almost like England versus France in Bilbao, isn't it? The throw-in flicked on by Butcher and Robson finishing. The long throw by Kenny Sansom. Terry Butcher so dangerous in that position, and Brian Robson, the England captain, returning to his country's cause with a goal after 13 minutes. See Butcher there with the flick on. The Scots couldn't cut that out. In came Robson. So Terry Butcher with the flick on, And Robson, who scored twice last Thursday in the FA Cup final replay for his club, now opens the scoring for England against Scotland. Here's Goff for the Scots. So the first goal that the Scots have conceded in the Championship. Just emphasising again, when Brian Robson is in midfield, you always have a chance of getting a goal from that area, as well as plenty of leadership. Here's Neil. Bobby Robson got the first goal in 1961 when England won 9-3, and his namesake gets the first goal in 1983. With now we shall see perhaps what the Scots are made of. I'm not giving him much time. Kenny Sansom's pushed well forward in this attack and left Gordon Cowans to carry the ball through from left back. There's Sansom. Souness. Gordon Strachan starting a run through the centre forward position, could be dangerous. Neil, who came in to foil Strachan. Neri, who slid in well there for the Scots. Bannon, that wasn't so good though for them. This is Lee. Robson just moving away to give Lee rather more space to find Hoddle. Here's Butcher. Played in for With the chest, away by Willie Miller. Oh, and Graham Souness recovering. Andy Gray. Good challenge by Terry Butcher, good interception. Here's Brian Robson. Francis, Miller in, but only as far as Cowans. And then Goff's challenge. Here he is, Strachan. Andy Gray. With started to make a run, but he's offside, and here with his comments on the opening goal is Jimmy Hill.
Well, you mentioned Bobby Robson's goal in years gone by, but he played quite a part in this one, because although it was Brian Robson who was on the end of that movement, Bobby Robson, as England team manager, has laid great stress and emphasis on practice at dead ball movements to turn games. And with Butcher's great power in the air, that sort of move is unstoppable. And with Sansom to throw the long throw on one side, and Hoddle, another advantage of having him in the side to do it on the other flank, it does give England decided advantage from those positions against anyone. Difficult to defend against. If it's done properly, there's a goal on the plate, and it was done beautifully.
This Souness for Scotland. Frank Gray, Neri, Souness. That's good play by Scotland. Goff to Strachan. Andy Gray is waiting on this side of the area for a cross. It's still Strachan taking on Sansom, who brought him down. Robbie Robson has now taken his seat down below with Don Howe. Driven in by Strachan, but to no avail for Scotland. Phil Neal was in the way. Here's Francis. It's Peter With on the right. Hoddle gone forward again there. With who flicked it on. Souness, Andy Gray. And Scotland got mixed up. Neri not given the best of chances by Andy Gray's flick, and then Souness couldn't control it. And instead he kicked at Francis. Referee is clearly trying to play the advantage where he can here. Hoddle. Cowans. Francis again. It's on for a shot from Francis.
Testing Leighton there, and it's good to see a Scottish goalkeeper really covering the goal with perfect technique. One of the criticisms really that's been made of Scottish goalkeepers in recent years, that their technique has been fractionally suspect, but there was no doubt about that. He had everything covered, and Francis' shot was of no use to England whatsoever.
Graham Souness has got a job on there, keeping Scotland shaped together in midfield, and particularly with Brian Robson as his adversary on the other side, as both captain of England and their central midfield player. Been playing 20 minutes and England have the edge. Forward by Souness and away by Butcher. Trevor Francis. Cowans. Now Souness for the Scots. Wasn't the best of passes to try to find Gough, who'd made the run on the outside. Souness into Nicholas. Forward again by Souness, but aimlessly so. Scotland's understanding certainly not evident up to now when they move forward. Although Bannon got ahead to that from Sansom, and here's Andy Gray. England made a present of that. Bannon's turned it in, and the player that just stepped in there to save the day was the man who'd given the ball away, Kenny Sansom. Here's Glenn Hoddle. In the way was Neri. Cowans to Neal. That was a good ball. England's build-up is rather more controlled than Scotland's, more purposeful. Lee. With. Neal. Turned across to Hoddle. Seemed to strike Strachan on the hand. Francis. Well, it was Strachan there who wouldn't let Francis rest. But he's given away a free kick. Hoddle taking it. With the defenders, it's going to come to Francis. The goalkeeper had come off his line but was able to get back. And Charlie Nicholas through the legs of Terry Butcher. And a nice turn too, away from Gary Mabbott, and he's found Souness. That was the best we've seen of Nicholas up to now. But Souness is not having the best of times by his standards in midfield. And he used his arm surely there on Francis. Ten minutes left in the first half here at Wembley. England 1, Scotland 0. And Graham Roberts beginning to settle into the England job now. Neri. Andy Gray to Nicholas. Neri again. Scotland here with Souness. 7 blue shirts making their way forward. Neri. Souness. Nicholas. The attention of the England defenders unwavering there. Oh, and a shattering collision between Willie Miller and Peter With, but they just get up and get on with it, as you would expect from those two. This is Strachan on the ball for the Scots. And Nicholas beginning to show some nice touches now. Strachan. Goff. Strachan. Going at Francis, and Roberts with a defensive header which had to be cleared behind his own goal. Andy Gray was hovering on the other side of Graham Roberts. Strachan was the player that set things up. He took on Trevor Francis there and beat him. And Scotland have a corner at the end of the first half. Indeed, there isn't time for it to be taken. Half-time arrives with England leading by 1-0. But the unlucky figure who scored the goal, Brian Robson, the captain of England, is back on the bench nursing an injury after latching on to Terry Butcher's near-post flick to score the only goal of the first half after 13 minutes. So Bobby Robson hoping to protect that lead and win the championship, whereas his Scottish counterpart, Jock Stein, goes off now to see his team at half-time, when the score here at Wembley is England 1, Scotland 0. So England forced to reshuffle, although Blissett, who's played up front so successfully for Watford this season, and indeed scored a hat-trick here against Luxembourg for England, was left out after Saturday's match in Belfast. He's now back in it, playing up front with Francis, number 15. Here's Cowans. Andy Gray for Scotland. So England have had to play those 2 cards, and the Scots have still got theirs up their sleeve. Here's Hoddle. Lee. Francis. I recall one shuddering collision between With and Willie Miller in the first half. It might have been down to that. Here's Phil Neal. Lee. Mabbott pushing forward into the penalty area, so is Cowans there. Knocked it back. And Glenn Hoddle, usually relishing that opportunity to latch on to the knockback. The forward run here which mattered was that of Gordon Cowans, who got into a very advanced position to knock that down for Glenn Hoddle, but the shot well away. Blissett. Well, that's a good turn, a really good turn. Francis in the centre, driven by Blissett, and perhaps from that position, not the best decision, but forced Jim Leighton anyway to hold on. Here's Andy Gray, forward by Nicholas, but only to Roberts. Here's Cowens. Sansom. Francis. And England now are running into a succession of injuries. It's Trevor Francis this time. And this could be bad news with both the England substitutes having been used. Indeed, the two players who Don Howe and Bobby Robson left out after Saturday, Mabbutt and Blissett, have now both been thrust in as substitutes for the departed Robson and With. Francis has still got his boot off, the play is continuing. And here's Goff for Scotland. Looking for Charlie Nicholas. Nice touch, Andy Gray, Neri, Eamon Bannon away to the left. Taking on Phil Neal, Bannon. And indeed getting a deflection off him. An opportunity would appear to beckon Scotland here, with England a little dishevelled by the changes. Andy Gray came in first, and he had McLeish behind him. If Scotland can show the passion that our panel felt they were perhaps lacking in the first half, they've certainly got every incentive now, even though they still trail 1-0. Blissett. There's Goff. Offside against Andy Gray, although he disputes that with the linesman from Sweden. So if it stayed like that, the British Championship would go to England. Cowens takes on Goff. Away by William Miller. That was a nice control clearance to Souness and then to Strachan. Here's Nicholas letting it run for Andy Gray. He was fouled by Graham Roberts. Souness takes the free kick, and Sammy Lee, his club colleague from Liverpool, intercepts. Neri couldn't reach that, but Strachan could. Andy Gray looks for Strachan. Benny Sansom covering there in the centre. And Trevor Francis to Blissett. And in comes Miller again. You'll always get a wholehearted performance out of this fellow. One of the reasons why Aberdeen have won 2 cups this season. McLeish. Nicholas. And that was Neri. And it was Bannon who would have been onside. Almost caught England out in a 1-for-1 there. And that's nicely touched by Blissett to Francis. And Scotland have decided it's time that they should make a change. And Alan Brazil, who hasn't played at Wembley before, is ready to take the place of Eamon Bannon, it would seem. Hoddle. This is Neil. Lee. Francis. That's a good cross, and Cowans arrived. They didn't get hold of it at all. Neil tried to pick a way through. Cowans! And England go 2-0 up. The ball ran loose, and Gordon Cowans swung his left foot, and it was wide of Leighton. It's 2-0 to England after 53 minutes. Brazil. Well, England certainly choosing a good time to score. That's Souness, but Gray would have been offside. Here's Neil, who was in a very advanced position when that goal was scored. He certainly helped to make it, and here he is again. Hoddle to his right, Blissett in the centre, and Willie Miller across. So, a good spell for England. 2-0 up now, and they have the corner. And Gordon Cowans, the goal scorer, has gone across to take it. Butcher's in there, and Leighton was struggling. England still have the momentum here. Francis. Well, that near-post ploy involving Terry Butcher seems to have worried the Scots, and so too, of course, Jimmy, the second goal from Gordon Cowans.
Yes, it does, and they really have an uphill battle now. Of all the disappointments, I find myself thinking about the Scottish side at the moment. I think Graham Souness really has been the most marked. I think he's feeling the effects of a long and arduous season, and is playing like it really tonight.
So the score in this British Championship match at Wembley, England 2, Scotland 0. Scotland on the attack here with Andy Gray. Away by Mabbutt as far as Souness. Gray is hovering again. And that was a good header by Phil Neal. But the Scottish supporters, optimistic to the last, are waving their yellow flags at both ends of the stadium. Blissett, and then Mabbutt, and now Blissett, and Francis to his right, and outside him is little Sammy Lee, offside. Well, he did it rather well, didn't he? But the linesman, I'm afraid, had already decreed that Lee was offside. Nicely worked this. Blissett found Francis. It was unselfish all the way along the line, but Sammy Lee was in an offside position before he chipped the goalkeeper. Brazil's made one of those curving runs. Graham Roberts should know a bit about him, playing for Spurs. Here's Goff. And Gray came in and wanted to leave it for Brazil. Here he is. And Goff. And Scotland had two chances there, Jimmy, and couldn't take either of them.
No, it was a great pity because it would have brought the game back to life in no small measure. The crowd are very excited by it. There are more spaces appearing both ways now, and this was the fine run by Richard Goff there. He drove it in, everybody's caught, but Alan Brazil just had to go out, was too wide, keeps it in well. I think maybe a little chip to the far post would have done a lot better, but a sort of curving cross like there made it very difficult to head in from that distance, but a good try. And here's Trevor Francis now on the edge of the box, and he shoots, and he scored!
And Francis will not have that goal allowed. The referee stepped in there and penalised him, and it doesn't count. The whistle definitely went while Jimmy was talking, and the goal does not stand, although Francis probably didn't hear it actually. The goalkeeper knew anyway, didn't dive for it, and the score is still 2-0. 25 minutes to go. Here's Goff. Souness. And Gray is coming in, and so is Brazil. And not a very good effort from Charlie Nicholas. Well, England have got hold of this second half quite well. The last chance that Scotland had was possibly their best of the match in terms of the players they had in the penalty area. And here's Nicholas. Goff. Going to be Nicholas into Gray, and here comes Neri, and we could have a little bit of a story on our hands here because it looks as though Charlie Nicholas is going to be taken off by Jock Stein. He hasn't made a real mark on the match, that's true, and I would imagine the reason for them preparing John Walk is just that Scotland feel they've got to get their goal scorers on the pitch. They've got Brazil on already, and Nicholas possibly playing out the last few seconds here of his first visit to Wembley. And here's Blissett, and McLeish came in behind him. That's a free kick to England. There's John Walk having taken up his midfield position, so we've now seen the maximum number of substitutes used, 2 by each side. Here's Francis for England, and this is Hoddle. Now it's Cowans who scored the second goal. Sansom getting into the attack more now. Sansom trying to wriggle his way through, and instead it's Strachan for the Scots, who could break nicely here, 3 against 3. Gray. Brazil is far side, so is Walk. And Gray to Goff, and they get a corner for the deflection. Well, England were committed at the other end there, notably Kenny Sansom, and Scotland broke out very intelligently. But they do need something back fairly quickly, one would think, the Scots now, to make a true fight of this. There are 20 minutes to go as they have the corner. And that was across to Brazil, trying to fox Blissett. And it came off Mabbott. And Gray is in there, so is Sansom. What a poor header. But at least it got the ball out. And the Scottish supporters now sense there could be something on. Strachan with the corner. And this time Phil Neal up at the near post. A tidy header, this one. And here's Francis. Oh, and Hoddle was crowded out at first. He got a leg in the end, but the Scots moving a bit better now. Walk was felled poorly there. The referee is going to play a good advantage to Gordon Strachan. And Strachan, oh, what a good save by Peter Shilton. Many goalkeepers, I would venture to suggest, might have let that one come back off them for a rebound chance. Gordon Strachan, it wasn't the greatest angle in the world, but Shilton so reliable in that position. McLeish. This is Andy Gray, and Hoddle breaking it up and getting some useful touches in now. Here's Francis. England supporters taunting the Scots away to my left. That was a bad tackle on Trevor Francis by Frankie Gray. In the very recent past, England have had rather the better of these encounters. Ron Greenwood, as manager, won 4 out of his 5 matches against the Scots, and Bobby Robson perhaps here thinking he's going to start with a win himself. Blissett. It's Willie Miller who's with him. Souness this time in on Francis. Neil. And McLeish with the header. Not well directed, really. Graham Roberts. Oh, what a tremendous effort. Bobby Robson describing Graham Roberts yesterday as being full of mettle, the kind of player he likes, because Roberts, having played in midfield for Spurs, is not afraid to come forward and try that. Slowing up a little bit, but Peter Shilton, such a calming influence now on that England defence. He hasn't let a goal in the last 4 internationals, Peter Shilton, if you count the one that we're watching at the moment. Souness, Andy Gray. Roberts so strong in the tackle, and Gray felt that, my word. This is Souness. Here's Goff. And Hoddle saw the opportunity there to get Cowans away, but Blissett was so quick as well. It's still Cowans. Cowans checks, and there are 2 coming up, and Hoddle is one of them. And Hoddle's initial pass, I'm sure, was meant for Gordon Cowans, although Blissett almost got it first. Gordon Cowans looking here for his 2nd goal of the night. There was an attempt to pull him back there, actually. He checked, tried to make it a better angle and didn't really succeed, and then saw Hoddle coming up behind him, and that one over the bar. So the Scots flag's waving. Perhaps it's a last defiant gesture. There are 4 minutes left in the match. They trail 2-0. Willie Miller coming forward, and Terry Butcher committing the foul on a former clubmate, and his descent there spotted by the referee. And the referee now has delayed things. Eric Fredriksson from Sweden. And the Scots here seeking something late in the day. This is Souness. Gray has started his run, and Shilton knew exactly what he was doing, but Graham Roberts wasn't sure and collided with him. Blissett. A pensive England manager who sees victory now very much in sight. Sanson. Square to Glenn Hoddle. Now, can he conjure something from this position? Phil Neal has joined the attack. And there has been some good shooting on side by England in this international. On the other hand, if you look at what Scotland have achieved at the other end, they haven't managed to get into shooting positions like this very often. Indeed, I can only recall one true save by Peter Shilton, a few crosses to deal with, mind you. Neri, Souness. And Rorke's made a forward run. It was Brazil that tried to find him, and Terry Butcher has had such a sound and uncomplicated match in the heart of the England defence. Nothing's got by him, nothing's disturbed him. Brian Robson, who got the first goal, chatting with Russell Osman on the England bench. But it was all to good effect, it would seem. And the other injured player, Peter With, I gather he's had stitches in a head wound, as well as having a knee injury. He's there with Ray Wilkins. Sanson inside again to Hoddle, and Blissett's made the run, and it's not a very good clearance from Miller. Hoddle in again, Mabbutt's shot, Blissett, chance here perhaps for England, away as far as Cowans, and Sammy Lee's coming in, side netting. There was an offside at the end, so Sammy Lee's shot would not have counted, but Blissett here on the left for England, and as the ball was played in for Cowan shoots, and Trevor Francis could even have glanced that with his head, but then there was an offside, so the goal would not have stood. Well, the Scots do have some fantastic supporters, don't they? Seem they're on for a beating here, but the tartan flags are the ones that you can see on the terraces. Here's Strachan. We are in fact in stoppage time now, and England have won the British Championship. Gordon Cowan's scorer of the second goal, adding to the one that the captain Brian Robson scored before he went off injured. England, under Bobby Robson, in his first year as manager, take 5 points out of 6 in the British Championship. And despite the Scottish support, their team never threatened to win this match. Jock Stein may well say that the goals came at a particularly good time for England and a bad time for his side early in each half. But at the other end, Peter Shilton, full of authority on crosses, didn't have very many shots to save. So, most of the England players off to Australia, Scotland off to a tour in Canada. The domestic season ends here at Wembley.
So, England emerged as comfortable winners, as Charlie Nicholas failed to live up to the hype. In the end, Nicholas would fail to fully shine in club football south of the border too. He joined Arsenal that summer, but Champagne Charlie, as he was nicknamed, scored only 34 goals in 5 seasons with the Gunners. The final table looked like this: England on top for the second year in a row, while Scotland once more had to do with second place. Ironically, the last ever home championship a year later was won by Northern Ireland, where the trophy resides to this day. Don't forget you can also watch some more classic Old Enemy fixtures right here on Vision Sport, including games from the home championship in 75, 77 and 81. 1983, though, belonged to England. From us, for now, it's goodbye.